Good evening again. All right. Again, my name is Kayla Reed. I'm the chair of the St. Louis Reparations Commission of the City of St. Louis, and this is our fourth public meeting, our second one here at New Northside Family Center. And so we're going to get started. So welcome to this meeting. Today, it's similar to the other meetings, the previous meetings that we've had. If this is your first meeting, can you just raise your hand? Welcome. All right. Welcome. So in this meeting, what we'll go ahead and do is we'll have a review of the mandate and the executive order from our secretary. We'll have introduction and open remarks from the commission members who are present. And which will sort of give a recap of the first three meetings, any sort of things that are lingering that they want to speak on. We'll have a presentation today from our vice chair, Dr. Will Ross, on public health in St. Louis. And then we'll open it up for public comment and questions. We'll give you the review of the rest of the schedule for the summer, which includes next month's meeting. And then we'll have final remarks and we will close. This meeting is open to the public. We encourage you, if you have any questions at any point, to save those for the public comment portion and ask those questions. We do have one working mic, so when you ask a question, you will come and assume the presenter role up here. Restrooms are out of the door to the right. There's water in the back. We'll keep that refilled. And if you need anything during the meeting, please see Mahala, who I don't see. Oh, never mind, right there. And please make sure you sign in so that we can keep in touch with you between meetings and ahead of our next meeting. So we'll get started with public comments from our commission. We'll get started with a review of the mandate and the executive order.
Good evening. I am Delisha George. I serve as the Secretary for the Reparations Commission. And again, we welcome you to our fourth public meeting. The Reparations Commission was established as a community-driven commission to assess the history of slavery, segregation, and other race-based harms in the city of St. Louis. Explore the present-day manifestations of that history, and ultimately recommend a proposal to begin repairing the harms that have been inflicted. The Reparations Commission's mandate shall be to explore the history of race-based harms in the city, reveal the present-day manifestations of that history, and ultimately propose a method and potential funding resources for directly repairing the harms that have been inflicted. The Commission shall explore not just the socioeconomic and political evidence, but also engage the moral, legal, and historical evidence for various claims to reparations and redistributive justice. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to have opening remarks from our commissioners. And we'll start on this end.
Good evening, everyone. I'm William Foster. I serve on the commission as a resident of the city of St. Louis. I'm happy that you guys have, showed up today. I would say, I think last meeting, I thought it was a great meeting. Everyone was very engaged, and hoping to see that participation for this meeting as well.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm David Cunningham. I'm in the sociology department at Washington University. I'm really happy to be here. It's really nice to see so many hands go up when we ask if who's here for the first time. Our aim is really to hear from as many people as we can and really get a sense of what should be guiding the work that we're doing based on what you all are contributing. So as William said, we've really seen that through our earlier meetings, and we really look forward to engaging with you tonight.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Will Ross. I'm Associate Dean for Diversity and a Professor of Medicine at Washington University School of Medicine, serve as Vice Chair of the Commission. I was equally really empowered by the comments that came from the past 3 sessions, really asking us to rely on you, the community, to be the resource, to be the actual inspiration for this, and to tap into your expertise. We're not creating this, we're actually learning. This is a whole process, and so we really are listening and really are responding to the comments from you. Thank you.
I'm Kevin D. Anthony, and I currently serve with the Ecumenical Leadership Council of St. Louis, of Missouri St. Louis chapter, as their community engagement officer. I am elated to see all of you here tonight, as well as those who have participated since we've started this process. Just want to note that there's a lot of work going forward on this, and we certainly need to see your engagement. It's good that you're here tonight, but invite others to come with you to our forthcoming meetings. And so we're just looking forward to doing this work and serving this community in terms of what the recommendations should look like. Thank you for being here.
I am Delisha George, Program Manager at Deaconess Foundation. I'm excited about the work that the Commission is doing, and even more excited about the engagement from the community and the support from the community, and really consider this to be a partnership. So look forward to the comments tonight and at upcoming meetings, and also you're welcome to reach out to us as well. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Gwen Moore. I'm a curator at the Missouri Historical Society, and I focus on local African American history. In fact, I study the Black experience in St. Louis. I'm really happy to see you here. I've been very impressed with our audiences, their knowledge, their interest, their passion, and we have learned so much just from listening. It says a lot about maybe sometimes don't talk so much and listen more, because we've really learned a lot. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, just to add on, the first 3 meetings have been wonderfully attended, and the public comments have ranged in both personal stories, which are helpful to us as a commission to hear, and recommendations on the structure of our report, and actual sort of policy recommendations. So we encourage you in this conversation that even if your questions or comments are not related to the subject that we're presenting on today, that you still provide us with that information. We take diligent notes and debrief them as a commission to make sure that it shapes the report that we're about to begin writing. We've heard a few subject matters, from housing to jobs to wealth building. We both heard questions and recommendations, and I look forward to this discussion that we're having today with our Vice Chair, Dr. Will Ross. I'll read a brief bio, because it is, he has done so much for our communities, and so I'll just give you a brief overview of some of his work. So Will Ross, Dr. Will Ross is Associate Dean for Diversity at Washington University School of Medicine and Professor of Medicine in the Renal Division. As a public health and healthcare policy expert, he has worked nationally and globally on systems integration and construction of conceptual frameworks to reduce healthcare disparities. He is a charter and founding member of the St. Louis Regional Health Commission, which has been instrumental in leveraging millions of dollars annually to St. Louis to maintain an integrated network of safety net primary care clinics and public health services. He served as chairman of the board of directors of the Missouri Foundation for Health, where he directed the foundation's creation of the nonprofit Center Health Literacy Missouri. He is chairman of the directors of the Mid-American Transplant Services Foundation and chairman of the St. Louis Board of Health. It goes on, but I'll stop there. Please help me welcome our presenter on public health in St. Louis, Dr. Will Ross.
Thank you, Kayla, for that introduction, and welcome again to the commission meeting. And I want to have a conversation and not really a presentation. I'd really talk about why we're here from the standpoint of delivering appropriate health and ensuring the health of the people in St. Louis. I was, as Kayla mentioned, one of the founders of the Regional Health Commission back in 2001, 2002. And one of the first things that we did was to really evaluate where the health disparities were in St. Louis. And it was quite stark, but certainly for you, the community, not surprising. We took a lot of that data and we collated that with data from the St. Louis Health Department to really look even deeply, more granular at those disparities. I have a set of slides, just 3 or 4 slides. They were posted on they were on the back, and if you don't have a copy, trying to find a friend who has one, a neighbor, and share that. Because I think it's important to walk you through these 3 or 4 slides. The first one is really to highlight the fact that our health should not be predicated on where we live. Our health should be predicated on access to care. The utilization of appropriate healthcare services, not based on our zip code. But one of the things we found out early on was that individuals who live in certain zip codes fare much poorly in terms of their overall life expectancy and quality of life. I did a study for Barnes Jewish Hospital back in 2000 and early 2000s, 2002 or so. And in that study, I asked, where are the most difficult neighborhoods? Where are people faring the worst? And we just used data, and I pretty much did a geocoding of that data. And 4 zip codes just stood out like a Christmas tree. 63106, 63107, 63113, and 63117. Those 4 zip codes had the worst maternal mortality, the highest infant mortality. The rate should be like less than 5 infant deaths per 1,000 live born. Those zip codes had rates that were 15 to 20 deaths per 1,000 live born. I've traveled the world. I've been in developing countries that didn't have rates that high, but they were high here in St. Louis, in North St. Louis. So I want you to look at that map, that figure 1, and you can see that our life expectancy is so divergent. If you look at zip codes, North St. Louis, 63106, the average life expectancy is 6 to 7 years. If you move just 6 miles west to Clayton, zip code 63105, the life expectancy is 18 years higher. 18 years higher. What are the forces that have conspired to really reduce black life by that much? And how can we really disentangle all those factors and produce the right resources that will help us ameliorate this horrific gap? So I want to share some data with you. And first is that a significant part of that gap is really based on what we call the social and structural determinants of health. It includes structural racism. We have to call it out. These barriers are really the forces that give rise to our adverse early life experiences. Poor education, unemployment, job insecurity, economic inequality, poverty, neighborhood deprivation, food insecurity, poor housing, housing instability, inadequate built environments, and poor health care, which is what we're talking about now. That all stems from these social structural determinants of health. But there is one seminal upstream factor which is all pervasive in our neighborhood, and that is poverty. That is poverty. In St. Louis, and I will quote St. Louis City, 31% of African Americans live below the federal poverty level, which is an income of roughly $22,000 for a family of 4. But let's look at the kids. 41%, I take that back. I had new data from last night. 44% of our African American kids in St. Louis live in poverty, 44%. And so what is the life expectancy then for those kids? Because they're just have this barrage of all these insults. These adverse factors really are affecting, okay, there we go. These adverse factors are also related to the stress of living in communities of limited resources. I want you to turn to that second and third slide on your handout. And I want to explain that we think that inadequate health care leads to these health disparities. But I'm going to submit to you that it's far more sinister and far more intractable. Because living in poverty per se gives rise to low expectancy. You'll see the second slide is a map of where I live, where I work, and where I play, the Central West End. I love it. My kids grew up in the Central West End. And we have just phenomenal amenities and resources there in the Central West End. But you all know the story, right? Get in your car, you just drive 1 mile down the road on Kings Highway. You cross Del Mar, and you'll see that third graph, the third slide. And just by living there, irrespective of whether or not you have access to health care, irrespective of whether or not you have a job, or whether or not you have a decent home, just living there by itself lowers your life expectancy. How could that happen? That's related to the constant stress that we live under, which generates a lot of physical, chemical abnormalities I can't share here. Most of them are just high levels of cortisol that just revs up our body's metabolism. And we die prematurely based on where we live. Now, this is sobering, but we have to find a recourse. So let me first share some more data. You have to know the data. And this data is St. Louis specific. African Americans are 30% more likely to die of heart disease and twice as likely to have a stroke in St. Louis. We're twice as likely to die of diabetic-related complications. We know that these social determinants are rooted in this historical milieu, this historical context of being in St. Louis. You heard a lot of that from our last speaker about what actually happened in St. Louis, the historical upstream determinants of how we live in a community that became intentionally segregated, and part because of policies that supported the movement of white families from urban centers into suburban areas, coupled with, of course, the rampant housing discrimination against African Americans. And we heard so much about the intent to unfortunately demarcate harsh lines of segregation through policies, harsh redlining, which continued well into the 70s. The legacy of segregation still continues in St. Louis to this day, resulting in these high concentrations of poverty I alluded to, these high rates of poverty that are just absolutely unconscionable. The impact of poverty on children is especially troubling, since starting in poverty has negative consequences for health well into adulthood. Vincent Folletti was a noted scientist who talked about these adverse childhood experiences. When kids are born under these conditions, they simply cannot overcome that in a lifetime. They carry that forward. And so we know that these health disparities and resulting negative outcomes have prompted a variety of responses over the decades to address and remove these barriers. These efforts are evident in the promotion and provision of health care throughout the region's health departments and public hospitals. But there is a problem there also, because we have a deteriorating healthcare safety net, and we don't provide the funding for our health department. St. Louis ranks number 50. We rank dead last in the country in terms of public health funding. We receive $6 per capita for public health funding. Put that in context, Washington State receives $115 per person. Think about what they can do there and what we can't do here. That is unconscionable, and there should be a path forward. We have this lack of dedicated tax streams to support healthcare in St. Louis. We have a lack of hospitals that we feel comfortable navigating in, because these hospitals don't have individuals who truly can provide their culturally competent, culturally sensitive care. The hallmark of that is the Homer G. Phillips Hospital, which I'm sure many of you are, of course, familiar with, which was located in the Ville neighborhood. That's in 63113, one of those disturbed, I shouldn't say disturbed, one of those traumatized zip codes I mentioned to you. It was a source of immense pride for the African American community. It was an economic anchor for that community. And when it closed, the community really suffered, and is still trying to recover. Despite some improvements in the health status in St. Louis region over the past decade, and there have been some improvements based on our ability to navigate and to really couple together healthcare through our federally qualified health centers, places like Affinia, People's Health Clinic, People's Health Center, Family Care. We've tried to do what we could, but it's insufficient. These race and gender-based health disparities continue to be concentrated in these economically distressed areas, particularly in North St. Louis. What has been remarkably consistent over the past several decades are the unrelenting, gripping reports of how poverty and racism continue to bedevil this community and impedes our progress in achieving health equity. These disparities will remain intractable. They will be there. They've been there for too long. They will remain there until we have a coordinated, well-funded, sustainable effort to address these social determinants of health among African Americans in St. Louis. That's what we hope to do with these sessions, with your feedback. We have to heal this community. And I beg you, let's try to do this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ross, for that presentation. We're going to take questions from the commission to Dr. Ross. Again, we have one mic, so please bear with us, and then we'll have public questions and comments from the audience. So please stay to ask your questions, and we'll try, if it's specific to the presentation, Dr. Ross will attempt to answer. If it's a comment, we'll take notes and save those things for the reports. So I'll start on this side around any comments or questions regarding the presentation.
I really didn't have a question. It was just so much to chew on. I'm trying to digest it all. So I want to thank you for that presentation, because I think in 20 minutes you really packed a lot of information. I was just telling him how much. I really didn't have a question.
She really didn't have a question. It's the mic. Okay, she really didn't have a question, just was grateful for all the data that was packed into a 20-minute presentation. And it's a lot to digest. and think about. So we might have questions in a second. We'll come back if needed.
I do. Dr. Ross, are you able to share what led to the closure of Homer G. Phillips and what has kept there from being additional medical facilities in North St. Louis? Wait.
Sorry, it's a different mic. At the time, the city was suffering from population loss. The population had fallen from almost 800,000 to 500,000 about that time. The mayor at the time, Mayor Conway, was charged to reduce the funding for public health because of the lower tax base. He had two options. He had an option of closing Homer G. Phillips Hospital, which was on the north side, or closing St. Louis City Hospital, which was on the near south side, in Lafayette Square. And so he commissioned a blue ribbon panel to study which hospitals should be closed. They looked at St. Louis City number 1, they looked at Homer G, and they concluded unequivocally, the Homer G was vastly more superior in terms of the physical plant, in terms of the operations, in terms of the proximity to Washington University, in terms of being rooted in the community, in terms of producing African-American physicians who achieved national stature. It was unequivocal. Yet, for reasons which we can talk about that later, the decision was made to close Homer G. Phillips Hospital. There was an outcry in the African-American community, as you can imagine. The community was devastated, still devastated for that closing. The hospital opened in 1937 and closed in August 1979. And we still haven't recovered from that. So that was the historical data, the reasons for that. There was a commission, and unfortunately the commission did not have their voices heard.
Dr. Cunningham, did you have one?
Thank you, Dr. Ross. And I would echo the other comments about just the range of intersecting factors that you've brought up here that are so crucial. And just maybe this is a point of clarification in terms of a request. One of the striking things that you brought up is the great disparity in terms of public health funding, and you're talking about a comparison with the states when you mentioned $6 per capita, and it sounded like when you used Washington State, that was 24 or 25 times higher. And as we think about our jurisdiction here in terms of the kind of locus of this, in terms of what we're able to control in a local sense, can you just clarify that sort of funding, how much of it is dictated at the state level versus municipally in St. Louis? I'm just wondering how much is focused here versus in Jefferson City in terms of level of funding.
Sure, I appreciate that. And so the disparity in funding between St. Louis, it wasn't St. Louis, I was comparing Missouri and Washington State. So it was all state-based funding. So it was funding coming out of Jefferson City versus the capital in Washington. And so that's been a dilemma, Dave, for many years. Again, it's part of the issue of what is worth funding, and what is public health, what is the whole purpose of public health? Many people don't understand that our health is due to public health. Between 1930 and 1980 or so, our life expectancy increased from almost 40 years to 70, 75 years. Half of that was because of public health interventions, fresh fruit, fresh water, vaccinations, things like that. And so it's important that we actually recognize that the health of our community, not just the African American community, but the health of our entire community, is dependent on that level of public health funding.
Okay, I have, that's my paper. Thank you. I had a question about, can you just speak to, you spoke on Homer G Hospital. Could you speak to some of the other changes in medical access, like hospital closures in St. Louis that have happened over the since Homer G?
Sure. So Homer G was preceded by another hospital. It was called City Hospital Number 1. It was a hospital that was leased to African Americans back in 1929, which closed, unfortunately, because it was such a poor quality hospital. But after, from 1904, when City Hospital Number 1 in Solar was built, there were other hospitals. There was a hospital in the county, so many of you remember St. Louis County Hospital. Of course, and then there were some smaller private hospitals that still cared for a lot of African American patients. The St. Louis, People's Hospital, and there was one other, I'm blocking on the name. But the largest hospitals were St. Louis City and St. Louis, and Homer G. Phillips Hospital. After Homer G. Phillips Hospital closed in 1979, the goal was, given the fact that there was a declining population, the goal was to take those patients and have them seen in the successor hospital, St. Louis Regional Medical Center. Many of you may remember that it was a hospital on 5535 Del Mar. And it was a former St. Luke's Hospital that many of you may also remember. So St. Louis Regional Hospital was a third, not a quarter the size of Homer G. Phillips. So woefully inadequate in terms of housing and caring. And at the St. Louis Regional Medical Center suffered the same fate. As the city continued to have a population decline and tax erosion, the mayor at the time, Freeman Bosley, had to conclude that he couldn't keep couldn't keep St. Louis Regional Medical Center open. That was tough. He got a lot of flack for that because he was a black mayor. Nonetheless, he was staring a fiscal reality in the face. I was a medical director of that hospital at the time, so I was right in the middle of it. I can share stories, but I won't now. So that hospital closed, and the community really felt that no one really cared. And they felt that they could go to Barnes Jewish or they could go to Deaconess, but it wasn't the same. So I see a lot of those patients in my office at Barnes Jewish who were at Regional and at Homer G, and they say, "Thank you, Dr. Ross, for being here. We wish there were others." So we haven't resolved that. We haven't resolved how to deliver that care. We can't afford to build another hospital in the region. But in a report I did in 2007, most of the people in the city said they didn't want another hospital. They wanted access to primary care. They wanted to be able to access an urgent care center after hours. They want to be able to get pharmacy and prescription services. They wanted the nuts and bolts. That's what I heard in forums like this. And so we're trying to deliver that. And slowly, hopefully, we'll build up that infrastructure. Yes, sir. said, everything you said is absolutely 100%.
Sir, we're going to open it up for public comment so everybody can hear you.
Okay, so thank you for your questions, and hold on, and please provide a statement if you wish so, sir. So we're going to turn this over to public comment.
Thank you, Dr. Ross. Now is the opportunity that most of you are probably here for, and that's to participate in the public comments and reflections that you may have, your thoughts on this work around reparations. We will allow 3 minutes for each person. We recognize that that's not long enough, but we want to make sure that as many people as possible get an opportunity to express themselves. And so we ask that as you come, respect that time limit. I will be seated here in the front row, and I have a red card that will signal to you that your 3-minute time limit has come to a close. And so we want to welcome you to the podium at this time to share your thoughts and reflections. Okay, yeah, and if you would line up here to my left, your right, to offer your comments. Thank you. Make sure you offer your name and what neighborhood that you are associated with here in St. Louis or the city. Thank you.
Good evening. I do apologize for the sudden impulsive move I made. My name is James Nathaniel Gallagher III. I'm representing the Mill Creek Valley. I'm also a member of the Mill Creek Valley Commemorative Committee with several of our committee persons here, Gwen Moore, Barbara Martin, that's all I see, but Vivian Gibson of the Last Children of the Mill Creek, she's also a member. My family, my entire family, including my mother and father, on this DDT spraying that was done in the Mill Creek Valley in the late 30s. Yes, I'm 85 years old, believe it or not. So my family was sprayed. I was born and raised at 3433 Pine Street, which is the heart of the Mill Creek Valley. As I interviewed with Laura from Channel 5, 11 of 13 members of my family succumbed to the spraying in the Mill Creek Valley. Those in the gospel circuit may be familiar with my sister, Geraldine Gallagher, who wrote a lot of gospel music from this area. She's been deceased since 2008. However, she was born deformed. My oldest sister died at 8 months old. My second oldest sister had a stroke at 9 years old. She was being tested at Washington University for her GPA average. She was a track 2 college student at 9 years old. She had a stroke at 9 and died at 32. My youngest brother, he died at 41 years old. I was affected also. I had rheumatic fever as a child, but the Lord held me here for this. And I can just go on and on with my family. My mother and father. My father died at 58. He worked for the refuse company here in St. Louis. And Mayor Tucker, it was Mayor Tucker who doomed the Mill Creek Valley, stopped picking up the rubbish so it could be classified as a slum, yet St. Louis University sits there, the Fox Theater sits there, Powell Symphony Hall sits there, All of these business and commercial areas are still remaining in the Mill Creek Valley. They keep redistricting it to make it shorter and shorter. I'm a member of the Washington Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church. I'm a life member there in the men's choir and the Century Men's Club. It's on Compton in Washington. That's the heart of the Mill Creek Valley. Reparation is for those, not just for me, for all that live during this area. This spring, they were telling us that they were spraying for mosquitoes. And some of the kids were running up and behind the truck. I didn't run up behind the truck because I couldn't stand the smell of the spray. However, I was still affected with it, and I've been sickly all my life. The military, by going into the military and the military medical treatments that I've accomplished, held me down to a minute. So that's the truth of the matter. As far as Homer G. Phillips was, it was the best shoot and cut hospital in the city. Dr. Smiley, Dr. Prophet, and Dr. Oh, wow. I know Dr. Smiley, Dr. Prophet, and Dr. Valmay, Roger Valmay, were the doctors who broke the barrier of Barnes Hospital and Jewish Hospital. My nursing career started at Jewish Hospital. I left the nursing career because of a racist period. They paid me $4.10 an hour as the third black male OR scrub and circulating nurse at Jewish Hospital. I went into transportation. There I spent 40 years. I retired as an engineer, railroad engineer. But it's, okay, yeah, 2 minutes isn't enough to express or to get out to everybody the reasons why. My sister wrote a song, said, "The Reasons Why."
Thank you.
Greetings. My name is Antoine Donaldson, and I reside in the Hamilton Heights neighborhood. I want to say I appreciate the information that you presented to us, that our committee member presented to us, and I want you to know that I do appreciate all the efforts and everything that people have done to combat what we just heard about over the years. So I really appreciate your work and what you've done to push it forward. So I want to read this quickly. I want to address the idea of using zero-interest loans, housing programs, increased access to health care, and free college as forms of reparations for the historical injustices faced by Black Americans. Loans, by their very nature, require repayment and consequently divert money away from the Black community, potentially exacerbating economic inequities instead of addressing it. And it's crucial to acknowledge that 0% interest loans usually carry interest if not repaid on time, which further underscores the problematic nature of using loans as a means of reparations. Reparations are not meant to be a transactional process where debts are incurred and must be repaid. They should represent a sincere effort to rectify the enduring impacts of slavery and systematic racism on the Black community. Facing the burden of interest if the loans are not paid on time even once adds another layer of financial stress and inequity to an already marginalized community. Housing programs historically have harmed rather than helped Black Americans, making them inadequate as reparations. These programs have perpetuated segregation, redlining, discriminatory practices, further exacerbating housing disparities in the Black community. The lack of agency in housing decisions can perpetuate the sense of disempowerment experienced by the Black community, further negating the transformative potential of true reparations. Now, cash reparations offer a more direct and effective solution, empowering individuals to address housing challenges. A comprehensive approach that empowers the Black community with the resources and the agency to establish our own economic housing opportunities is necessary to truly redress the legacy of slavery and systematic racism. While free education is a valuable initiative, it falls short of serving as true reparations for the historical injustices endured by Black Americans. True reparations should empower Black Americans with the resources to establish our own educational institutions. This would address the centuries of slavery, segregation, systematic racism that have resulted in enduring economic disparities and limited educational opportunities for Black individuals. By providing the means to create and control our own educational institutions, true reparations can foster a more equitable and empowering educational environment for the Black community. And I saved this one for last, this comment on health. And I want to reiterate that I really appreciate everything that all the people who have been fighting for Black Americans to have some semblance of health care in this city. I really appreciate all your efforts, but I'm going to say this: increased access to health care cannot be considered reparations for Black Americans. The medical institutions, historically racist, have perpetuated discrimination and exploitation. Medical apartheid by Harriet A. Washington underscores how these practices continue to fuel health disparities today. True reparations require empowering Black Americans to establish our own medical institutions using direct cash reparations to address our unique healthcare needs and promote equitable health outcomes. And I really appreciate y'all letting me speak.
Hello, my name is Michael Gregory. I hail from Ferguson, Missouri. I currently live in the 13th Ward. I'm the owner of ConsciousOutlawMedia.com, the voice of Black Americans. I have a short statement I prepared. All my information and statistics come from the Brookings Institute, Reuters, and St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I demand cash payments because 1/5 of the sitting government as I stand before you enslaved people. Harriet Tubman transitioned in 1913. My maternal grandfather was born in 1918. His wife, my maternal grandmother, was born in 1919. My paternal grandmother was born in 1926. Her husband, my paternal grandfather, was born in 1911. In 1860, $3 billion was the value assigned to the physical bodies of enslaved Black Americans. This was more money that was invested in the factories and railroads combined. 100 sitting current Congress members descend from slaveholders. 28 Senate members descend from slaveholders. 2 Supreme Court justices descend from slave owners. 5 living presidents descend from slave owners. 11 governors descend from slave owners, including Missouri Governor Mike Parsons, direct descendants of Thomas Etheridge, who owned 6 people. Former U.S. Senator Roy Blunt and his son, former Governor Matt Blunt, also descend from enslavers, plus former Representative Sam Graves also descend from enslavers. In 1860, the major industries of Missouri were agriculture and mining. Those industries took full advantage of slave labor. The 1860 census of Missouri listed 114,931 slaves, 3,572 colored people, 1,182,012 people that were classified as white. When it comes to the lionization of pioneers of Black American progress, I nominate Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Neely Fuller Jr., Dr. Claude Anderson, and of course, Dr. Martin Luther King. Black Americans in St. Louis need protected class status. Reparations can never be existing programs. That is not repair. Housing vouchers is not repair. Our enslavers gave us housing. Our enslavers gave us education. That is not repair. Our enslavers' descendants gave us free health care. That is not reparations. That's not repair. You ask, how do we pay this debt? Missouri is selling $4 million a day of medical and recreational marijuana. A tax levy could very much take care of that situation. We have, and with this conclusion, I'm going to take an excerpt of Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech on his March on Washington. We have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Black American/Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds, but we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Damian Johnson. I live and a voter in this city, and I recently, in recent, like 2 or 3 years, learned that I can trace my descendants directly to slavery. Yes, and I will be visiting a place, but it was important to me. And I also point out that I consider myself continue learning about my history. Yes, I did learn about African American history in school. I used the Eyes on the Prize, but I didn't learn about the Black Wall Street until in my mid-30s, and we had different Black Wall Street, some in Tulsa, some in Carroll, Illinois. Even right here in St. Louis, we had some form of Black Wall Street. And unfortunately, we had second and race riot that tore Black Wall Street down. And that's how we'll continue. I like learning about the history of the health history. But right now I stand, unless we are talking about rebuilding African what we had economically, education-wise, and market-wise, not just another welfare, not just a handout or a cash check, but actually teach people how to fish and teach people how to market themselves, I'm not interested. And I turn to, you mentioned about the health issue. I want to know how much does Africans have to overcome gangs and gun violence that cause us to have a lower life expectancy than our white counterparts? How much does that affect? And in terms of rebuilding hospitals, is there any private funds that are looking into reopening up hospitals and health care services in North State or North County? Okay.
Good evening. My name is Alvonia Creighton, and I'm a representative of the Ados IFC Foundation. And I have a couple questions. My first question, I know you guys are going to focus on health, but what about mental health? Missouri is ranked, I guess, number 49 in the country as far as mental health services. Secondly, infrastructure and the jobs that's coming along with it. Are you considering employment? If we're going to build equity in the communities, how can you ensure that the jobs, the high-income jobs, for example, every major utility company is taking on infrastructure projects, and it's so many, the city of St. Louis themselves is taking on 5. Is there any way that you can ensure that we at least are able to get the opportunity to apply for these jobs, not just service jobs, but these are jobs working in infrastructure. So again, are you going to make employment a topic of consideration? And my third question, will you guys be utilizing the non-for-profit and orgs? I have a horror story that I want to share with you guys. I grew up in St. Louis County. I was born, and I lived at 6837 McNamee for 42 years in St. Louis County. The house was redlined, then it was gentrified. All of Page and Ferguson by a non-for-profit, Beyond Housing. He displaced 7 families whose homes were paid for, and it's been tough. I grew up in the house. My parents bought the house in the 60s. And now Beyond Housing owns all 3 of the 4 corners. And it's still a desert, a food desert. Beyond Housing and Chris Kramer did not live up to the promises. Me and my family were robbed of our inheritance. Okay, and I want that to be known. And we can use Ferguson as an example. We got no legislation, $90 million and no legislation. And I just want to put that in the forefront. And please, I'm hoping that you guys don't get into that non-for-profit organizational industrial complex, because it doesn't go well for black people. And that's all I have. Thank you again for your time. Esteemed members. Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Johnson, and I reside from the Academy Sherman Park neighborhood. And I came to speak about my view, well, not my view, but how I believe we should get this reparations claim, because it's really based in the financial abuses that they have put on the black community. Like, they have intentionally destroyed our economic activity, all the businesses. If you go down MLK from Grand, I mean, not even from Grand, from Jefferson all the way down to, I mean, almost when it turns into St. Charles Rock Road, it looks like a wasteland. They do not want us to succeed over there. I mean, they know that's where we live historically. And on top of that, the financial abuses started all the way back in slavery. You know, they love to make the slaves sound like these inadequate people that didn't know how to do anything, but they built all the buildings around us, all the old buildings. They were skilled laborers, and they love to refer to them as nothing or just in the field all the time. But the field work was even harder back then because they didn't even have machines. But we figured it out. And so even when figuring it out, we weren't paid the same. And I think that's the real problem with what happened. They did not pay us with all the labor that we did. We've done labor for 400 years and we haven't been paid the same. That's why we need to demand cash reparations. I mean, from even up to today, and it looks different, but it's the same thing. Not getting promoted to the supervisor job, or not even being, what's it called? Or even having incredibly low home valuations. Your house could be 3 stories, have 7 rooms in there, 3 bathrooms, but they will still value it under $100,000 because they don't want to live in that neighborhood. We need direct cash payments into our bank accounts for the whole family. You know, if I had to put a number on it, I'm demanding $500,000 a person for each family, and that's just how I see it. You know, thank you for you all listening.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tavon, and I represent Wells Goodfella Improvement Association and Stand Up Ministries, 2 non-for-profits that are centered around building our communities. So I was invited here. I love the discussions of reparations, but let me share a quick story, and then I get into the reasoning. So I have a 13-year-old son, and he always come ask me for money. Like, Dad, I need some money. I need to get a game. That's cool. I'm a father, and I want to support my son. However, I wanted to teach him a lesson. I said, you can have $100 today, or you can get $200 in 2 weeks. You choose. Of course, he's a child. He chose today's $100. 2 weeks came along. He said, Dad, I need some more money. No, sir. Let's go work for it. So what I was trying to show my son is put the time in to earn your money, to save your money, trying to teach him how to build his money so he don't have to depend on no one. So what I'm saying is, and what I'm asking, I'm not from St. Louis, I'm originally from Baltimore, I'm a Navy brat, I lived in the Middle East, but one thing I learned living around other cultures, I'm not here against no one. And I feel like if we install in our children that no one is holding you back, learn a skill, learn a craft, learn your value, so that when we do, if we receive reparations, honestly, how many of us do we think are going to be here when we ever receive reparations in this audience? And then when I look in the audience, I'm seeing that there are a lot of young children here. What are they going to do with the money if they receive reparations when we're gone? So I ask that if we can instill in our children the value of money, educate them on how to earn your money, rather than, again, I'm not against reparations. If we get it, hallelujah. If we don't, again, we should be able to build in ourselves and have our children build wealth on their own, regardless who is in the forefront. Again, I don't know the history of St. Louis like that. I'm learning, but I do know that if we as a people instill and teach our children not to depend on any culture, but your own skill, then I feel like the reparations that is owed to us, it will come to us naturally because we have a gift, a skill that we can share to the world that they will want from us. So, of course, the money will come from us. Again, I'm not saying not to be against reparations. I'm all for it. But what will we do with the money when we get it? Will we let it go down the drain? If you look at the taxes when we get at the end of the year, what do we buy with it? Cars, shoes, clothes. So I'm asking that we teach our children the value of money. Thank you.
Good evening to all. I want to thank the panel for the information that you've brought, especially the history of St. Louis, and also the prominent issues that we have in this broken-ass town. My name is Chester Arthur Deans, Jr. My organization is Fathers United to Raise Awareness. I am also the retired Executive Vice President of the Father Support Center as of December 2017. The primary reason for what we're dealing with today is that the United States of America decided years ago really to take the man out of the home, okay? The father out of the home. But then again, with that, I learned something from my grandfather, Allegiance Tate. Even though the system has that kind of power, if you are a man that is a believer and you have a God-given spirit, you know that those are your children, that's your wife, that's your spouse, and even though the government may have tried to remove you, you also need to take ownership of their well-being. So that means that we, over these hundreds and hundreds of years, have had to be creative if we are going to be the men that to take care of our children and families. In reference to the reparations, Tavon just kind of said it, and really the gentleman from, I think, Hamilton, the gentleman, are you still here from Hamilton? Yes, sir. He laid it out plainly. He laid it out plainly, but the United States government is not going to provide us money like that. So you might as well get ready for that. This is not the United States of America anymore. This is the divided states of America. And for all the men out there that really want to be men, it's time for us to get together and put aside our differences and come into solidarity within all our block units and say, look, let's put our funds together, bring a charter group together, and sometimes you might even have to go up against the city administration or the municipalities and let them know, this is not fair. That's right. This is not legal. So why are you doing this to me? You see? And then you demand, because it's hundreds of us. But the issue with us as black men, we are fragmented. We don't come together enough. It's just like Malcolm said, that whole hoodwink thing and bamboozle thing, because now you're chasing trinkets. See? I chase my children. I chase my family. I chase my community. I don't chase trinkets. I don't have to look like Gucci. I don't have to look like have stuff all down, hanging down on my back. I don't wear my pajamas out in the street. See, we have lost much of this. It's our fault. Like I said, reparations, that's good to demand that. But first, let's repair our homes, our houses, our buildings, and demand that all that money that the city got, it goes to North St. Louis, see? Not just the South Side, and not just the LGBTQ incidents. That's right, I see the red card, brother. But this needs to be said. The money is out there. And when is it going to go to the city? Not just the NGA, not just the NGA. North St. As the brother already said, when you drive through St. Louis, it looks like a bombed out place. When I was a kid riding my balloon tire bicycle up and down these streets from the Pruitt and Igo projects, it didn't look like that. It didn't look like that at all. I don't care if you even moved to the county, it didn't look like that. And that's because the city administration has not done its job to maintain it. Now that's the reparation we need every day. Clean up St. Louis. Those folks that you have in so-called prisons, get their behind up every day at 4:30, get them out on the streets, clean this place up, and then give us a reparation. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tony Taylor. I stay in Walnut Park East, but I'm born and raised out of the Greater Bill area. So I thank you for sharing all of that backstory with us. I was actually born in the 1300 block of Albert, and I lived on Wagner Place when they turned it and renamed it to Dick Gregory. I was 9 years old when they closed Homer G. Phillips, and we stayed in the 4500 block of Cottage Avenue. At the age 13, we moved on Garfield in the 4500 block of Garfield. That's where I became an adult at. I grew up, and you say 1979. Well, 9 years later, nobody talks about the fact that in 1988, they had already poured so much crack and drugs into that community that it destroyed that community. You almost made me cry because when I was 9 years old, the closing of Homer G. Phillips was my very first protest with my family because my grandmother worked there. Also, when people share the story of Homer G. Phillips, nobody talks about the vicious, hostage takeover that happened that day. People were actually at work. They put helicopters from the police and surrounded that building. They surrounded that building with guns and held them on those people and exit them out that building. Nobody talks about that. So what I want to know is, will any of the reparations money go to protecting the black community from another vicious hostage takeover? Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. How you guys doing? That was a lot of information we got. You guys are awesome. Ain't no way I can come behind it, but I did take my notes. So I just want to say thank you guys for coming out. But what I'm looking for is, where are we going to move to next? Because I know when I was younger, I lived on Fountain. That's in the Central West End also, a beautiful home. I was born on Vernon, but I think we lived in the projects also. I was kind of a baby, so I don't remember everything. But I know when we were kids, the stuff that's going on now, it's just like, where is all this coming from? Because all the schools were here. I went to Euclid, I went to Washington, I went to Sumner High School. Back in those days, schools were everywhere. I don't even see schools anymore. They're empty buildings, you know, then all these derelict homes. What are we doing with them? I remember they had a program where they were selling the homes for $1. You know, why don't they come up with a program where they can offer us some housing, you know, let us buy it for $1, give us some money to help us fix it up. Okay, because it's too many empty houses over here. You know, then we got the people coming around, like she said, we need mental health. Because we got the people walking the streets looking crazy, right on our corners. We ask them to move, they don't move. So we need help for those people also. So it's a lot of things that we're gonna have to do. Okay, that's reparation right there. Get with the people that aren't doing well, you know, because I don't want to take from someone that's doing, you know, I want reparation, but if there's somebody doing worse than I am, I would want them to get the help. You know what I'm saying? I want help also, but all of us need help. So we're gonna have to start from the bottom and work our way up, but it comes from the people up there, the people who can help. So if you can help, like the guy said, teach your kids how to do that, well, why don't you come over to the neighborhoods and start something for our kids, okay? Because I teach my kids. All my kids are doing wonderful, and I just thank God for that, because it could be one of the other kids in the street. But we cannot keep talking about how these kids are doing this and doing that, and they're teenagers. Where your mama? Where your dad? Why aren't they out that time of the night? Okay, or where are they coming from? They might not even be coming from our neighborhood. So we got to look out for one another like we used to. I used to get a whooping from the neighbor, a whooping from a teacher, and then when my mama got home, I got beat. Okay, so we have got to step up to the plate. Now, men, I just want to say, please step up to the plate, because we need help with these boys. Because they out here, well, the girls are too, Lord help us all, but the boys and the girls, we have got to do something about it. So if you see something, don't be talking about, I ain't seen nothing. You did see something. Don't be scared. Tell it, because I am. Don't let me see you doing nothing, because I'm telling. Okay, I stay on Bird. I'm in the Hamilton Heights neighborhood. I have a wonderful, wonderful street of people. You know, all we want is good. Okay, so we take care of each other. We look out for each other. You know, we see somebody doing something, no, you don't belong there. We know who live there, because they try to come and sit on your porch. No. I think we got the best street over there. Well, I think it. But I want all of us to help clean up our neighborhoods. You know, because there used to be a guy to come around and throw his trash on top of the trash can instead of putting it in the trash can. So I would ask him, can you put the thing, he went off, cussed me out. You know, I've never seen this guy before. He was a white guy walking with some dogs. And every day, he just come and throw them blue bags over in the trash, all over the floor. And my husband asked him to pick it up. And he cussed him out. I'm like, don't say anything else to him. If you come around here, we'll call the police, but they don't come either, so whatever. But anyway, we have got to stick together. Okay, you guys, we got to stick together. We got to love one another, okay, because that love is like not there. And then we have to come back to common sense, because common sense is not even common anymore. So, thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Pam. I grew up in the Walnut Park area back in '65. Black people did not live in the Walnut Park area. Walnut Park was beautiful. To look at Walnut Park now, to look at the west side now, but it's messed up. And when I grew up, we did things that were more, what could I say? Having more compassion for each other. And having more compassion for each other. And these days, we don't have no compassion. But moving forward, and when it comes to this money, stop giving anything to these politicians because they're not doing anything for the black community. And you guys ought to look at it like this. Sometimes you can give it to the black people, period, and they can make it work better than anybody else. They know where it's needed to go because these politicians, they're going to put it in their pocket. We need homes. We need schools. We had a black superintendent that closed down all the schools in the city of St. Louis. How dare he? How dare he? But looking going forward, now you guys got to say, well, let's put some schools for these kids. You talk about the Central West End and where we live, how everybody's house don't look like that, but where we live now, okay, put the money over there. Put the money over there. Show these kids, this is what you can have. This is what you can do. Open up we got 2 vacant buildings over there. Put rec centers over there. Give these kids something to look forward to. Start talking about if we will. We need to start talking about what we are going to do, not what we might do. That's how you're going to save them. But please, I'm asking you, please don't put no money in these politicians' hands. Please don't. Because they don't need it. Because the black community will never see it. That's all I had to say.
So we're going to conclude the public comment portion of tonight. I just want to say thank you to all those who came up to speak. And so we're going to conclude the meeting with just closing comments from our commission, and then we'll give you information about the upcoming meetings, and then we'll be out of here. And I'll start on this side. Bless you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Once again, I'm William Foster. I just want to say thank you all for your participation, all your comments. Really will take these into consideration in our next meeting, but I appreciated all of the sentiments. I know this is a very sensitive issue, and we're all working towards a solution for everyone, to benefit everyone. But again, thank you all for coming out, and look forward to our next meeting.
Hi, everyone. I want to just, first of all, echo that thanks. We really appreciate you being here, and we especially appreciate hearing from you. And I just want to say we certainly recognize that 2 or 3 minutes is not adequate to really get out all of the both experiences and ideas that you all have. So we really commend you working with the format that we just have to work with here and being able to share so much, both in terms of experiences and in terms of recommendations and ideas. And as William says, we're taking all of these in, we're bringing them together. I feel like every meeting we really get more substance and more depth and more import in terms of what we can do with these ideas. So thank you very much.
Thank you for all the remarkable, powerful comments. We are here to listen, not necessarily to respond at this point, but I do want to respond. I think it's important. It's a question about gun violence and what can we do. I had an opportunity to travel to South Central LA to review a organization called Homeboy Industries, taking gangbangers off the streets and having them employed in a bakery. I spoke with the CEO of the organization, Father Greg Boyle. We spoke at length. He said, Will, nothing stops a bullet like a gun. Nothing stops a bullet like a job. Nothing stops a bullet like a job. He gave those guys jobs. And darn it, the homicide rate declined dramatically in South Central. It was a powerful story, and I've heard this tonight. We have to focus on job creation in our community. I think that will be a strong first step, and I hope we all can align with that issue of neighborhood development and job creation. Thank you.
First, I just want to say to Mr. Gallagher, thank you for sharing your family story. I think it's important for us to hear that, and I just wanted to say thank you personally for sharing those details. I know that it's hard to do that, but we appreciate you being so vulnerable and open with us around that, and would love to follow up. We know that we didn't have enough time, but I will make sure that we follow up directly just to get more information that you were trying to share before we ran out of time. I think, my general comments tonight are just a lot of gratitude, one for the folks who continue to push for direct cash payments. I think to be bold in your demands is important for us to hear, because we are only going to summarize the information that we're taking together, that we're learning together, and figuring out these recommendations to this administration. We continue to hear things about mental health and investment, opportunities and access, and we know that poverty is actually, there's a quote that says poverty is the grandfather of crime. And poverty in this region is intentional, it's designed. And until we have a design solution, we'll continue to see the output of the design project that is creating this reality that we live in. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And we all take very vivid notes because we debrief this and want to make sure that that the conversations and recommendations are being taken seriously, and we just I want you to know that we are taking it seriously. Super grateful that you all showed up today. And if you did not sign up, raise your hand. Okay, we got one in the front. We are taking sign-in information because we want to make sure that we can notify you of upcoming meetings, that we can notify you of other ways to get involved with the creation of the report. So thank you so much for coming out tonight.
I just want to reiterate your presence and your comments or reflections are invaluable. I definitely want to throw some appreciation out to those of you who have been at every meeting and have leaned in heavily around our coming together on reparations and what those recommendations should look like. I'm even more amazed that at each one of those meetings, when you have been here, you have offered fresh information, which I think is even more powerful. Because as you know, we do this work, and there are some things that we will miss. But because of your consistent presence, and your sincerity around the work that we're doing and pushing us is, again, just invaluable. And so thank you for coming out. And I can't say enough, if you know someone that should be here, bring them. Because without your presence and without your voice, it makes it difficult for the commission. And so we need that, that ongoing presence from you to help us get this to a place where we could make sure that the black community and those who have suffered see some repair to the harm that has taken place. Thank you.
I also want to say thank you all for coming out and listening to Dr. Ross's presentation. I grew up in 63113. I still live in 63113. I was fortunate, I was blessed. I'm in my grandparents' house that they bought in the 60s. And I know that that is a blessing because there are so many houses around me where I remember the families growing up and they're not there anymore. And the last couple of weeks, you know, God works in mysterious ways. I have been intentionally over in Old North. And I didn't go there as a child. That wasn't my area. But today I got lost coming back from a meeting and ended up at 70 in St. Louis Avenue. And I went down St. Louis Avenue and my mind was blown. The houses, if you all have not been over there, just go ride down St. Louis Avenue and you will be amazed. The whole area. The houses are gorgeous, but a lot of them are abandoned. And they really do, they mirror Lafayette Square and all these other areas that are so vibrant. And that was heartbreaking. That was extremely heartbreaking. So coming from that earlier today to this meeting tonight, understand that these meetings are emotional for us as well. They really are, because we're on the receiving end and we're trying to process, and some of this is new. You know, we're hearing from the first time because these are stories you're sharing. We have stories, but you have stories, and we're just amazed at what we know is wrong. It has been wrong, but it's like, wow, this is a lot. So I appreciate the vulnerability. I appreciate the engagement, and just know we're here with you. We are, and we will do what we can. We really will, and we sincerely appreciate you. And please keep showing up. Keep showing up. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to thank you for your honesty and your forcefulness, and I'm going to say your anger. A lot of times we're told not to be angry. Our anger is justified, and we need to express it. And I want you to keep expressing it. We can take it, and they can take it, and they're going to have to take it. Thank you.
All right, everyone. I'm here to give you all our August and September meeting dates. So feel free to pull out your calendars or write this down. And then just as a note, we are trying to diversify our meeting locations as well as alternating dates just to make it accessible to everyone. So, you know, with this meeting being in New North Side, we're transitioning to a location on the South Side. So please, I guess with the sign-up list, we'll all keep you up to date on the location confirmed for these two dates. But our August date will be August 26th, which is a Saturday, from 1 to 3 p.m. And our September meeting will be September 27th, which is a Wednesday, from 6 to 8 p.m. Does anyone need me to repeat that? Okay. What is it? How are we going to come? We'll email it out. Okay. For the August date, it's August 26th, which is a Saturday, from 1 to 3. In September will be September 27th, which is a Wednesday, from 6 to 8. All right. That's all?
are still TV, yeah. We're trying to find, listen, if y'all, we in this together. So if you know a location on the south side that can hold about 100 people, let us know, because we've been looking for, you know, a place? See, that's what I'm talking about. We got to work together. Okay, so August 26th, 1 to 3, September 27th, 6 to 8. We will see you there. Please sign up. If you have not signed up, that is how we will get in touch with you. We do call. I don't know if you got a call from us. We do call you. We come knock on doors in the neighborhoods around the facility. This is our largest meeting so far. Look around. Let's clap about that. And we want to thank New Northside for allowing us to have our last 2 meetings here. We appreciate this space. It's a wonderful space. And we look forward to seeing you at our next meeting. Thank you all so much for staying with us through this process. We'll see you at public meeting number 5 on August 26th at 1 p.m. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.